Greetings one and all. Super Mondays. Yeah, Super Mondays from the Holy Apple, Holy Land, Holy City, the Holy Hilltop, the Holy Synagogue, Tal Binyamin. Coming your way. We are on the 6th day of the month of Cheshvan, 5783. God willing, we have 2 classes for you. This will be divided into 2 parts. Very important information, so sit down, grab a seatbelt and a piece of paper, notes, and very important class, fundamental. Subject, today and next week, with God's help. Turning the IDF soldiers into idols. Once again, turning the IDF soldiers into idols. Background of this class was not planned. Some of the best classes are not planned. So the background is this: for the last approximately 6 weeks, we've been under attack both in Judea and Samaria, in Jerusalem, Eastern Jerusalem, the Kotel area. We've been under attack. Hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands of attacks by Arabs. Yesterday, a Jew was murdered in Kiryat Arba. An older fellow was murdered. We've had rock attacks, Molotov attacks, stabbings, shootings, you name it, we've got it. It's really unsettling. Every time, you should see my car. Our dear cameraman Svi could testify that in the front seat there are many, many rocks, and most people, when they come into my car as hitchhikers, they understand what the rocks are for, but actually, first time I put them in my car recently, in the last 6 weeks, somebody asked me if I collect rocks. Or are these archaeological rocks? No, they're just, when you're not, I'm not allowed to carry a gun by the government of Israel does not allow me to carry a gun to defend myself and my family, my kids, my grandkids. So this is the next best thing that I have. So I have rocks if I need them to defend myself and go on the offense against the Arabs. So every time a person travels in these areas, especially Judea and Samaria, East Jerusalem, no one's sure what the outcome is going to be. You have to understand what kind of situation, what kind of predicament we are living in. Not very, very pleasant. Okay, so with all of these hundreds or thousands of attacks on Jews, Judea, Samaria, East Jerusalem, there was a demonstration approximately 2 weeks ago where the army accuses a couple of teenager settlers of pushing, hitting, perhaps pepper spray. There's different versions of what the problem was. So when this happened approximately 2 weeks ago at a demonstration where the army accused a couple of the teenager settlers of this, pushing or hitting soldiers, there was a tremendous tsunami reaction in Israel, something we have never seen. Something we've never seen with hundreds and thousands of attacks on Jews. As I said, Jews being killed yesterday, people nearly this close being killed, babies coming very close to being hit with rocks or Molotovs, tremendous amount of miracles that are happening. We have not seen such a tsunami reaction when the victims were Jews. When the victims were the soldiers, woo, did we have a choir out there. They were just singing. all over the political spectrum, right, left, and center. Amazing reaction in condemning these teenagers, these settlers. We'll give an example. Considered to be the far right. I love these expressions. Far right, ultra-orthodox. So they're unbelievable. Like, who thinks of these? They must stay up all night trying to think of expressions that will make us look extreme. So we have from the National Zionist Religious Party, the head, Bezalel Smotrich. He said, "We do not lift a hand against soldiers, period." Okay? There's no room, no circumstances, according to the hawk, Bezalel Smotrich, there is no room for lifting up a hand. He didn't even say hit, actually, he just said lifting up a hand. Also, following not far from Bezalel Smotrich is Itamar Ben-Gvir. Itamar Ben-Gvir says, I am translating, violence against soldiers is always unacceptable. In any case, violence is unacceptable against soldiers. The police are investigating this demonstration. They're investigating this crime, quote unquote, as a nationalistic crime, which means when Arabs attack Jews, it's considered to be a nationalistic crime. So this is being looked at, a demonstration, teenagers, it's being looked at as a nationalistic crime on the same level of, you could do an equal sign, equals Arab attack against Jews. Amazing. Okay, moving right along. Now, we have to get a few things straight. In the past, you could look it up, I did a 4-part series. I was listening to a Baal Tshuva, a repenter, somebody that was in an elite unit called those that dress up like Arabs. They're called in Hebrew the Mistarvim. And he was in this elite unit when he was a secular Jew. He moved, found his way to the United States, ended up in New York somewhere. Somehow he repented. He came back to Tshuva, and he must have met up with the Hasidim of the Satmar, and he gave a class. It was very interesting to me to listen to. I thought it would be interesting. Little did I know that I would do a four-part series, each one being an hour, against this rabbi. What was his point? This rabbi, once again, a former, when he was secular Jew, he was in Israel. He was a former soldier in an elite unit that do a lot of good things for the Jewish people, and he had about maybe 10 or 15 minutes of a rant against not only the army but also against fighting against fighting against the enemy, against the Arabs. It was really amazing. So this was so disgusting to me that I did a 4-part series in defense of the IDF, of the defense forces, defense under defense. So I'm not a person that is an army hater. More to the point, I was in the army till I was thrown out for doing various mitzvahs, good deeds against the Arab enemy in the land of Israel, and then I was thrown out of the army. I spent approximately 2.5 years trying to get back into the army. I went to various members of the parliament, of the government in Israel. I spoke, I made phone calls, wrote letters, the whole 9 yards, baby. to get back into the army, and I was not accepted. Today, if you would pay me, okay, I would not go back into the army, but that's a whole class in itself because of the restrictions, the handcuffs that are put on the soldiers when it comes to fighting the war against the Arab enemies. But so once again, we're dealing, in this class, we're talking me, been there, done that. I'm not an army basher or Jews that there's a lot of good things that they do, and listen to those classes, 4 classes on the importance of things that they do in the army. Okay, so I'm very neutral here. I think that the best way to look at the religious Jews that study the Torah and Jews that go out and are in the army, the best way to look at it is the way that our sages taught us to look at it. This could be found in the Talmud Sanhedrin, page 49, side A, based on a verse in Samuel 2, book 2, chapter 8, verse 15. The Talmud, based on this verse, tells us an amazing idea, that King David was able to study Torah because his chief of staff of the army, Yoav, was fighting wars. And on the other hand, Yoav was successful in fighting his wars because King David was learning Torah. So once again, we need a Jew stands on 2 legs, not one. One leg, you're crippled. Judaism stands on 2 legs. We need the prayers, we need the Torah, and we also need the defense. Some people combine all of them together in one person. They also learn, they also pray, and they also fight. Sometimes it's divided up. Not everyone is able to do that. It's divided up. There are people that go out and fight. There are people that go out and learn Torah and pray and do that with a tremendous amount of self-sacrifice. So both of them are needed. There has to be a mutual respect between those that learn Torah and looking at the those that are in the army and fighting and sacrificing their time. And there has to be that mutual respect on the other side of the spectrum of those soldiers looking out to those that are praying and learning Torah and understanding that we need each other. Okay, unfortunately though, in 2 camps, first the secular Israeli society, many members of that secular society have turned the army soldiers into the untouchables. The untouchables. You cannot lift a hand. Doesn't matter what the circumstances are. It's irrelevant. Cannot lift up a hand even against the soldiers. The untouchables. Or they're marketed, the soldiers and the IDF are marketed as the guardians of Israel. Once God was the guardian of Israel, as it says in Psalms. No, today there are new guardians of Israel. Move over, God. Take a back seat. Now we have the new guardians of Israel. In fact, one of the most asinine statements I've ever heard a couple of years ago was by a very high army general. He said that if only the IDF was around in the Second World War, the Holocaust could have been avoided and stopped. Amazing. Jews would not have suffered a Holocaust if the IDF was around in the time of the Second World War. So we have that part of society. It's not everybody, of course. Some parts of that society, secular, that's how they look at the army. They idolize untouchables, and that's how it's looked at. In the other side of the spectrum, we have the national religious camp. Not everyone, but many in this camp have created two new images of God. Image number one is of God is the state of Israel. And it doesn't matter what the issue is. If it's an issue of Torah and state, well, the state, of course, according to many people in the national religious camp, the state comes first, not the Torah. Our second idol that they have created is the idols of the IDF soldiers, Israeli army. In fact, those of you might remember one of the leading national religious camp rabbis, I'm not going to mention his name, he came out with a statement in the time of the expulsion of the Jews of Gush Katif. He came out with an amazing expression. We cannot stop the withdrawal from Gush Katif. What? What are the people coming down? Tens of thousands of people want to come down to stop the withdrawal from the Gush Katif, northern Shomron settlements. What is this rabbi talking about? So he explained himself. We cannot stop the withdrawal because that would mean the IDF would be defeated. We defeated the people. We defeated the IDF, and that cannot be. The IDF cannot be defeated. We cannot participate in defeating the IDF. So we're going to let Gush Katif and dozens of settlements and Jews and their livelihood destroyed. But holy cows must remain holy cows. So we have an illness, a sickness, from two different camps, secular and national religious. Not only that, I call it the new school. We got to get back to the old school. What is the new school? Today, kids from a young age in the national religious camp, from a young age, they are taught to idolize the soldiers in the Israeli army, the IDF. And when somebody in green, that's the color of the army, when somebody in green walks by, you know, a kid is used to like lifting up his head. Oh, you remember that song? I'm gonna be like you. You know I'm gonna be like you. Yeah, the cat's in the cradle. Yeah. Anyways, there's this kind of awe that's taught, that's given over to our kids in these circles. In fact, in my settlement, as many other places, there every Friday, a knock at the door. Kids come around gathering goodies, potato chips, chocolates, soda, whatever it might be, for the soldiers in the area. Now that is fine. I don't have a problem with gathering up goodies for the soldiers if that would happen also for people, for students that learn Torah in various, in every settlement. There are students of Torah. There are yeshivot in every single, almost every single settlement. If the same treatment was for both sides, I don't have a problem with it. You know, the more, the merrier. That's great. But it's a one-way street. This happens only for the soldiers. And that is why I go by the old school. One of my favorite events, I have a camp. I run a camp that Hashem has given me the privilege to run for the last 20 years. It's a camp for kids that are ages 4 to 6. And camp runs for about 3 weeks in the summer. That's why I disappeared from these classes on the YouTube. So one of my favorite events of those 3 weeks is when the kids come to the camp with goodies. This time, not for soldiers, but for yeshiva students, for Talmudic students. And we have big, big bags, you know, imagine like a gigantic garbage bag filled with goodies. We have like 3 of those 45, 46 kids. Everyone brings 2 or 3 different goodies. It's an amazing thing. I take these kids at such such an important age, and we go up and we walk up to the yeshiva, and all the kids make pictures, and we put them up on the wall of the yeshiva. From every person in the camp draws a picture, and then I write a letter and I tell the kids exactly what I write to them. Thank you for protecting us. You sitting here in the yeshiva, thank you for protecting us against all evils that we are surrounded by. And then we put out in the cafeteria, we put out all the goodies on the table, and it's really an amazing. And I can't tell you how many students of the yeshiva come up to me over the years and saying it's the highlight of their year. An appreciation. That is the old school. An appreciation. Once again, we need appreciation, of course, for the soldiers. That goes without saying. But it also should go without saying, but it's not. We should have the same, more of a respect to understand that our victory is dependent on our spiritual level more than anything. Our spiritual level. Of course you have to go out and defend yourself, for sure, and fight. But in the end of the day, victory or a loss, that is dependent on our spiritual, on our prayers, on our Torah, on our good deeds, our love for our fellow Jews, our willingness to sacrifice for the Torah, for God, and for our fellow Jews. That's what it comes down to. Who could say this concept better than our Holy Torah? In the tractate of Bava Kama, on page 17, side 8, those that study Torah and do acts of kindness, our enemies will fall before them. What brings upon a Jewish victory is those that study Torah and do acts of kindness. This brings the downfall of our enemies, straight, black, and white. Or, in the words of King David in Psalms, Psalm 127, verse 1, if God will not guard the city, the work of the guards are in vain. Amazing verse. If God will not guard the city, all the guards, all the ammunition, all the weapons, all the airplanes, the drones, and the missiles are in vain. We are told in the book of Deuteronomy, when you come into the land of Israel, God warns us, do not claim that the victory that I will give you is due to your strength and your sense of battle knowledge. No. When you come into the land of Israel and you are victorious, understand that the reason why you were victorious is only because of God's protection. That is, so the Jewish way, the Torah way is that a person has to fight, but has to realize that the victory was given to us only through the power of God. That is the Jewish view of battle. Now, let's take it from the top here. We're talking about a demonstration. The army claims, accuses a couple of settlers, teenagers, of hitting, pushing. It's not clear exactly what was there. Irrelevant right now. Who is the IDF? A very important question. Who is the IDF? The IDF are people. It's not just a blank mask. We don't know who they are. The IDF is made up of a lot of different types of people, dear friends. For example, there are many Russian Gentiles in the army, in the Israeli army. There are non-Jewish Druze, Arab soldiers in the army. Druze. In the army, the IDF, there are also leftists who Many of them are anti-Semites when it comes to Judaism and Torah, and Jews that study Torah, or Jews that live in what they call the territories, the occupied territories, what we call the liberated territories, Judea, Samaria. And then, of course, you have regular people in the army, which are, a minority of them, are violent, disregarding if you're a rightist or a leftist. It's just a personality. It's a way of life for them, being violent. So we have a cholent, one might say, a smorgasbord of different types of people. So you have to understand, the IDF is not just one face that, okay, the IDF. There are many people that make up the IDF, and there are many, many different types of personalities that you will meet up with when you're at a demonstration. You'll find many different types of soldiers. There are soldiers that are 100%, are right on. There are soldiers that might not be right on, but they're normal human beings. They're not violent types of people. So this is a big problem, because you have a melting pot, and then you have a meeting. You have demonstrations. You have Jews that their families, their own lives are in danger, and do not know if who's going to come home today. Will my children have a father? Will they have a mother? Will I have all of my children? This is not the inheritance of a couple of people. This is the inheritance of tens of thousands of people. And in the last 6 weeks, it's every single day. Amazing. Those of us, different parts of the world that are watching this class, are not familiar, I pray, are not familiar with this kind of existence. I hate calling it an existence. It's a terrible type of existence. Not sure if you're going to come home. When I come to this class, I don't know what's going to be. When I come here, I don't know when I go back home. What's going to be? I got my rocks. Okay, and then in this terrible situation where the Arabs are, an uprising of the Arabs, a war declared against the Jews by the Arabs all over. And then you meet up with all types of IDF Israeli soldiers. Okay, many great, many beautiful people. Unfortunately, many ugly people. Many sick people. Many violent people. So remember that. When you hear about a religious demonstration, maybe in Jerusalem, or you hear about a settler demonstration in Judea and Samaria, and then you hear that the demonstrators, the religious demonstrators, hit, pushed, whatever it might be, call a time out and say, I am not going to judge this headline until I investigate the situation. Now I realize that there are all types of people in the Israeli army, in the IDF army. And therefore, because there are, let's call them a minority, but a prominent minority of bad soldiers, of sadistic soldiers, of violent soldiers, of soldiers that hate religious people or hate settlers. So call a timeout, hold your horses before you judge those headlines of the religious attacking, hitting, pushing soldiers. Call a timeout. Let's think about this one. That's step number one. Those condemners, people that condemn, are they lovers of the IDF or haters of religious people or religious settlers? Important question. Listen to this amazing information. Okay, amazing information here. In 1989, member of Knesset, member of the Israeli government, from the extreme left, Zahava Galon, from the Meretz party, was arrested with another 27 people for throwing rocks, not pushing, not lifting up hands, not hitting, for throwing rocks at IDF soldiers. This could be found in the newspaper called Chadashot in 1989. Amazing. And this woman from the far left is in the Israeli government. Very interesting. Condemners who themselves throw rocks. You know what they say, don't throw rocks at glass houses. So don't throw rocks at other Jews if you look in the mirror, okay, you've done something much, much worse. They weren't throwing rocks at the soldiers. Maybe they pushed, maybe they hit. And we'll see exactly what happened. But do not be fooled by all the condemnations. We talked about the tsunami condemnations over the last 2 weeks from the center, from right and to left, all in a choir, accusing the settlers, condemning the settlers whose lives are in danger, not the condemners. Condemners' lives are not in danger. No, dear friends, the condemners of this demonstration of the settlers, the same politicians, the same so-called leaders, the same army generals, officers, are the same people that day in and day out put the IDF soldiers into dangerous situations, handcuff them. They are forbidden to really fight a war and are forbidden to aggressively stop this Arab uprising that we've noticed. And I'm not talking about for the last 6 weeks. I'm talking about years and years and years. The army throughout the years have chosen to put when I say the army, I'm talking about the government and the army. They have chosen to put these poor soldiers, 18, 19, 20, 21 years old, in firing danger, in life danger, in order to protect the Arab enemy. It is better that Jews are killed, Jewish soldiers are killed, and not, okay, instead of the Arab enemy being killed, attacked, or settled. We are willing to have that happen. So do not lecture me with your false ethics. Been there, done that. You government, you liars, you hypocrites, daily putting our soldiers into danger, handcuffing them, not allowing them to really fight any battle. And those that went against the regulations and went against the army rules find themselves in a trial, in a courtroom. There are many soldiers like that. The army, the government turned their backs on these soldiers that stood up and fought and protected. You are not lovers of the IDF. You are hypocrites. You put these young men in danger daily. Disgusting, that's what you are. Look in the mirror. Okay. With God's help, we'll call it a first class. We hope it's always first class. Next week, with God's help, we will look at the Torah law. What does the Torah have to say about fighting, lifting a hand, pushing other Jews, let alone soldiers? We'll take a look at that, and then we'll look close. We'll take a closer look at what exactly transpired at a demonstration 2 weeks ago. It happens often, these kinds of scenarios. I'll try to explain, take you through. I've been there, done that hundreds of times, so I know the ropes. So, God willing, don't touch that dial. We'll meet up next week. Till then, take care.